Okay, get this. It's actually pretty shocking. 91% of Gen Z, 9 out of 10 young adults, report physical or emotional symptoms of stress, chronic stress. But here's the kicker, the paradox. They're also the most wellness-focused generation we've ever really seen.
Yeah, and that gap, right, that massive disconnect between wanting wellness and, well, actually feeling stressed, that's what's fueling this this really powerful self-improvement movement. And look, it's not another one of those harsh juice cleanses, or some guru just telling you to think positive. It's called the Great Lock-In Challenge.
The lock-in, okay, so we're not talking like a quick 30-day thing here.
No, not at all. This is much more focused. It's a 3-month transformation period, I think 90 days.
90 days.
Yeah, and during that time, young adults are deliberately cutting way back on external noise distractions. They're aggressively slashing non-essential spending, and they laser focus on 3 core areas of personal development. And this isn't some fringe thing either. Our sources are showing, a whopping 56% of young adults are actively doing this 90-day challenge right now.
56%. That's huge.
It is. And, this deep dive today, think of it as your blueprint. We're really going beyond just the surface level stuff. We want to uncover the exact psychological drivers, the financial pressures, what makes this movement necessary for them. And you, listening, you'll walk away with the actual systems.
The systems, not just motivation.
Exactly. Repeatable frameworks, stuff that actually works. Failure-proof ways they're taking back control, even when the bigger world feels totally chaotic. We're going to show you why that old school gradual self-help stuff, it just completely falls flat for this generation. And we'll get into the specific tactical moves that lead to real, lasting change over those 3 months.
Okay, so we've pulled together a pretty comprehensive stack of sources here. We're looking at the whole 90-day framework, the economic backdrop, the nuts and bolts, the tactical advice on wellness, money, digital habits, the whole package.
Yeah, absolutely. And our mission today really is to pull out those core 3 pillars and the psychology underneath it all, right? What makes this lock-in stick? Why is it sustainable and actually transformative?
So learning how this generation is flipping that script, turning all of this economic anxiety into focused individual action.
Precisely. Powerful stuff.
All right, let's unpack the core driver here. Because you've got this generation, right, known for experiences, mental health awareness, being authentic. And suddenly they're diving into this intense, disciplined, almost monk-like self-improvement thing for 3 whole months. What's the trigger? What's the deep psychological why?
Well, fundamentally, it's fear. And that fear is being driven overwhelmingly by economic anxiety. I mean, you got to look at the reality they're facing. It's like a perfect storm of economic pressures hitting them all at once.
Like what specifically?
Well, think about housing costs, rent prices. They're just skyrocketing way faster than wages are keeping up. Then there's student loan debt, crushing levels that previous generations just didn't have on the same scale.
Right.
And the job market, it demands you be super specialized, but often offers, pretty precarious work. Gig economy stuff, contracts, not that stable career ladder maybe their parents had.
So it creates this constant, low hum of worry about the future. Yeah. About security.
Exactly. It's a persistent worry. And, older generations, they often had, let's say, smoother entry points, maybe into the workforce, into buying a house. Gen Z doesn't have that same perceived safety net. The ground feels shakier.
So, okay.
Yeah.
It boils down to control then.
Yeah.
They're looking at this external chaos, global inflation, crazy housing prices, things they can't just fix with a hashtag or a protest.
Precisely. It feels like this huge, intractable, macro-level problem, so what do?
You focus on what you can control.
You got it. The lock-in basically emerged as this collective psychological answer to feeling powerless over the big stuff. If you can't control the economy, you double down. You exert this ruthless, really intentional control over the only sphere you actually can influence.
Gotcha.
Your immediate daily life, your habits, your physical energy levels, how you manage your money. Minute by minute, day by day. It's almost like a survival mechanism, right? Optimizing the self to try and withstand this terrifying uncertainty out there.
Okay, that makes total sense now why the old self-help playbook just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
The whole slow, gentle, gradual improvement thing.
Yeah, it's a non-starter. If your economic future feels like it's on shaky ground, you just don't feel like you have the time for gentle suggestions.
You need results.
Absolutely not. That slow, gradual approach, it really only feels viable when you have a baseline of economic security. You feel like you can afford to kind of drift or fail for a bit. Our sources show Gen Z feels they just don't have that luxury of gradual improvement.
Hmm.
They need results they can see, results they can feel, and efficiently too. Because these improvements, getting healthier, saving money, getting better skills, they're directly tied to their ability to just survive and maybe get ahead.
And we see that in their goals, right? The
Yeah.
stats you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. Like 74% are focused on body improvement, think energy, confidence, 63% on strengthening finances, that's pure security, and 44% on career growth. These aren't just, nice to have self-fulfillment things. They're seen as essential survival skills for navigating a really tough economic landscape.
Okay, so if a 30-day challenge is too surface level and slow improvement is too slow, then this 90-day framework must be hitting some kind of sweet spot. Is there science behind that specific time frame?
Oh, yeah. The research on real habit formation is key here, that whole 21 days to form a habit thing. It's mostly myth. It's just too short to really rewire those neural pathways deeply.
Right, I've heard that.
Yeah. Studies show that sustainable habits, the ones that actually become automatic, where you don't have to think so hard about doing them, they take consistency over intensity and the average time. It's closer to 66 days, sometimes even longer, depending on how complex the habit is.
So 90 days gives you that buffer.
Exactly. It gives participants that vital margin.
Yeah.
It makes sure the habit gets tested beyond that first burst of excitement, through the inevitable slumps, the setbacks. And it allows the behavior to really solidify, to become automatic.
Now, you mentioned something important earlier. This isn't like some of those super harsh punitive challenges out there. The kind where it's all or nothing, and if you slip up once, you feel like a total failure and just quit.
Sure.
How does the lock-in avoid that burnout trap?
That's a crucial distinction. It's smarter because it builds in what researchers call sustainable change through self-compassion.
Self-compassion.
Yeah. Those really harsh challenges, like some famous 75-day ones, they often have a massive burnout rate precisely because they demand perfection. Perfection is the only acceptable outcome.
Which is unrealistic for most people.
Totally unrealistic. The lock-in explicitly says, look, perfectionism is the enemy of progress. The real goal is consistency and resilience, not flawless execution. That 90-day window actually allows you to mess up.
Okay.
It allows you to adjust without feeling like you have to quit, to show yourself some grace, some compassion, and then immediately pivot back to the system. The aim isn't 100% adherence every single day. It's more like aiming for, say, 80% adherence over the whole 90 days. And that 80% over 90 days is way more powerful and sustainable than like 100% for a month, followed by completely crashing and burning.
I really like that. Building a system that expects imperfection. It shifts the focus, doesn't it? From feeling like a failure when you slip to feeling successful because you recovered.
Exactly. That's the core of it. It's resilience training baked right in. The way you frame it mentally is vital. Instead of a setback, meaning I'm a failure, the lock-in encourages you to think, okay, this system needs a tweak, or maybe my life needs a bit more breathing room right now. That psychological flexibility, that's the engine that keeps people going past that tough 30-day mark.
Okay, so we've got the why. Economic anxiety driving this need for intentional control, and it's structured around this 90-day framework built for resilience, not perfection. Let's get into the how then, the nuts and bolts. What are the specific systems for these three pillars? Wellness, finance, and digital life, starting with what you call the wellness paradox.
Right, the wellness paradox. It's really fascinating, and it kind of forces us to rethink what we even mean by self-care. Because, like you said, Gen Z invests a lot in wellness. The smart rings, the fancy supplements, expensive tracking apps, all that stuff.
Spending serious money.
Yeah, but at the same time, we're seeing these record high levels of stress, declining mental health stats. So why? Why the contradiction?
Well, the sources seem to suggest they've almost turned self-care into another high-pressure project, like another thing to optimize and perfect.
Bingo. That's exactly it. They're trying to buy their way out of a problem that actually requires, subtraction.
Subtraction, not addition.
Yeah. They're layering all these expensive add-ons, these optimizations, onto a foundation that's already kind of crumbling under the weight of external stress and, frankly, digital overload. They're not always addressing the root causes.
So it's like trying to tune up the engine with fancy oil when the chassis is falling apart.
That's a great analogy, yeah. They're optimizing specific metrics, maybe sleep scores or whatever, when their fundamental energy is just being drained by unmanaged stress, lack of real rest, things like that. And that's why the lock-in pushes this pretty revolutionary shift. Focus on the simple stuff. Cost-effective, minimalist, subtractive strategies.
Okay, so ditch the expensive gear, the supplements. Focus on what's free, what's readily available. What are the key strategies there?
Number one, Walking. Sounds almost too simple, right?
Yeah, basic maybe.
But its inclusion is totally backed by science. Walking, especially if you can do it outside, is like scientifically proven to lower cortisol, that main stress hormone.
Okay.
It's immediate, it costs nothing. It's a direct countermeasure to that feeling of anxiety. Then you've got other key minimalist things, mostly home-based, no equipment needed, body weight exercises, just basic stuff to maintain strength and energy. Cooking more meals at home, huge for both physical health and financial health, obviously. And maybe the biggest foundational piece, rigorous sleep hygiene.
Sleep. Costs nothing, right? But impacts absolutely everything. Mood, focus, and, really critically for this challenge, financial decisions. Being sleep-deprived makes you way more likely to impulse buy.
It's the absolute keystone habit. It locks the whole system together. And the lock-in also completely reframes how we think about movement, about exercise.
How so?
It pushes you to see exercise first as a tool for stress relief, for managing your mental energy, not just purely as an aesthetic goal or hitting some fitness target.
Okay, so function over form, almost.
Kind of. And the sources really stress consistency over intensity here. Just 30 minutes of daily activity doesn't have to be hardcore. It's shown to be really effective at easing mental health symptoms, resetting that stress baseline.
So it doesn't need to be an hour-long killer workout.
Nope. It just needs to be something you can stick to, maybe even enjoy. Non-negotiable. Could be a long walk on your lunch break. Could be short bursts of movement scattered through the day. Whatever works.
That really lowers the barrier to entry, doesn't it? Which is probably key if you're already feeling stressed and overwhelmed. Okay, let's pivot to pillar number 2. Finance. You said this is the core driver for, what, 63% of participants?
Yeah, a big majority. Strengthening finances is key. And, traditional budgeting advice, it often relies on sheer willpower, right?
Yeah.
Deprivation, which, let's be honest, usually falls apart after a few weeks.
The novelty wears off.
Exactly. So the lock-in uses this really interesting psychological reframe. They call it the subscription model.
Subscription model?
That's right.
Netflix for your savings.
Kind of. It's a really smart psychological play, actually, because it taps into Gen Z's comfort level with regular, predictable payments. We saw that stat, right? 40% of urban young adults are okay using EMI's equated monthly installments, even for lifestyle stuff.
Right. They're used to those automatic debits.
They're totally accustomed to it. So the lock-in just flips that script. It says, treat your financial health, your savings, your debt payments, treat it like a mandatory subscription service, something you pay automatically, first thing every month, non-negotiable.
Okay. So savings isn't the leftover thing you do if there's money at the end of the month. It's prioritized. It comes out first, like rent or that streaming bill.
Precisely. And automating it takes willpower out of the equation almost entirely. Plus, the lock-in acknowledges something else important, that standard 50-30-20 budget rule, 50% needs, 30% wants, 20% savings.
Yeah.
It often just doesn't work for this demographic. Why? Because that needs category is so inflated usually by insane housing costs, it pushes them into what we call P2P living.
P2P, paycheck to paycheck.
Exactly. There's often just no room left for that traditional 20% savings goal. It feels impossible.
So what's the lock-in's adaptation?
It adjusts the rule to fit that P2P reality, but still builds in progress. It's more like 60% needs, 25% wants, and 15% financial goals. That could be savings, could be aggressive debt elimination.
Okay, so 602515. It acknowledges the pressure, but still carves out a dedicated slice for getting ahead.
Right. It makes it feel achievable, not instantly demoralizing. And the core tactic within this pillar is the progressive no-buy challenge framework. It's not just going cold turkey on spending.
No. How does it work?
It's phased, designed to build control gradually, sustainably. You start with the awareness phase. Week 1.
Okay.
This isn't about stopping spending yet. It's just about tracking, logging every single expense, no matter how small. The goal is to identify your triggers.
Sending triggers.
Oh, yeah.
Stress eating leads to takeout orders.
Exactly. Or maybe boredom leads to scrolling online shops. You figure out why you spend, not just what you spend on. This tracking phase shows you where your money is kind of emotionally leaking away.
Identifying the emotion behind the purchase. That seems key.
Critically important. Then, once you have that awareness, you move into selective no-buy, maybe weeks 2 through 4.
Selective, meaning not everything.
Right. You pick just one category where you know you're leaking money frequently. For a lot of people, that's the daily coffee shop habit, or maybe getting takeout for lunch every day.
Yeah.
You eliminate just that one thing. And think about it. If you spend, say, $10 on lunch every workday, cutting that out is $50 a week right there. That's $200 a month. suddenly that 15% financial goal starts to look a whole lot more achievable.
Yeah, that adds up fast. So you do the awareness, you do the selective cut. What about keeping it going? Avoiding that rebound where you suddenly splurge after depriving yourself.
That's where the 24-hour rule comes in. This is for bigger, non-essential purchases. Let's say anything over $50 or whatever threshold makes sense for you.
Okay, the 24-hour rule. What is it?
Simple. You see something you want, you put it on a list. You absolutely cannot buy it for a full 24 hours.
Building in a mandatory cooling off period.
Exactly. The goal is to create friction, to put space between the impulse and the actual transaction, what usually happens. Deprived of that instant gratification, most impulse buys lose their shine after 12, 18, certainly 24 hours. That pause lets your rational brain catch up with your emotional brain.
Okay, so the big takeaways here seem to be automate your savings like it's a bill, and then practice this kind of micro-awareness with tracking and the 24-hour rule.
Perfectly put, pay your future self first through automation, and then tackle that financial anxiety, not by sticking your head in the sand, but by facing it. Brief daily check-ins, like 5 minutes every morning, look at your balances, see what bills are coming up. It builds this sense of psychological control, and that really reduces that vague, free-floating money fear that often drives impulsive spending. Right, so the third pillar, digital detox. And the lock-in really gets that. If financial anxiety is the why, then digital overload, digital fatigue, that's often the how that stops people from actually doing anything about it. We're just drowning in distraction.
Yeah, that stat. 28% of adults online, almost constantly. And let's be real, a lot of this tech, these apps, they're literally designed to grab our attention, keep us hooked, probably increase cortisol. It directly undermines trying to be focused and reduce stress.
Right. It absolutely sabotages the core mission of the lock-in, which is all about focused action to combat that economic stress. And the money connection, it's often missed.
Also, beyond just seeing ads and buying stuff.
Well, that's part of it, yeah. Constant connectivity drives impulse buys through targeted ads, social comparison, all that. But maybe even more importantly, it shreds your ability to focus deeply.
Deep work.
Yeah. And that deep focus is exactly what you need to learn new skills, to maybe build a side hustle, to actually upskill in your career.
Yeah.
The very things that could increase your future earning power and directly fight that economic anxiety. So your attention, it's literally an economic asset, and we're letting it get frittered away.
So digital minimalism, as the lock-in frames it, it's not about throwing your phone in the river and becoming a hermit.
Definitely not. It's not about being anti-technology. It's about being intentional with technology rather than just habitually, reflexively using it all the time, making conscious choices.
Okay, so what are the strategies? How does it work progressively, like the no-buy?
Similar idea, building control gradually. Week one is often about setting boundaries. The simplest, most impactful one, the notification audit.
Turning off notifications, all of them.
Pretty much all the non-essential ones. News alerts, social media likes, game updates. Silence them. Leave on only things that need an immediate response, like maybe calls or texts from specific people. This stops those constant micro-interruptions that just chew up your focus all day long.
Okay, notification audit. What else?
The phone-free morning. We've probably all heard about this one, but it's really critical within the lock-in framework.
Why so critical? What's the mechanism?
It's actually physiological. When you grab your phone the second you wake up, you basically flood your system with other people's demands, novelty, potential stressors. It triggers cortisol release and puts you straight into a reactive, kind of high-stress state before your day even starts.
Right, instead of setting your own agenda.
Exactly. So avoiding your phone for just the first 30, maybe 60 minutes, it helps keep that early morning cortisol spike lower. You start calmer, and a calmer start generally means better executive function all day, better decisions, whether that's sticking to your workout, resisting an impulse buy online, or focusing on a work task.
That's a powerful reframe. It's not about depriving yourself of the phone. It's about giving yourself a less stressful start to the day. Proactive stress reduction.
Precisely. But then there's the inevitable challenge, right? You take the phone away. What do you do with the boredom, the urge to scroll?
Yeah, the habit loop. What fills the void?
That's the key. You can't just remove the distraction. You have to actively replace the habit. So maybe weeks 3 and 4 of the digital detox focus on these replacement strategies. You need to have specific offline alternatives planned out in advance.
Okay, like what?
So when you feel that twitch, that urge to scroll, instead you could say, call a friend you haven't chatted with in a while. Social connection is a massive stress reducer. Or you could do that 15-minute body weight routine we talked about. or pick up a physical book. The point is to consciously fill that void with something high quality, high return, instead of just falling back into low quality, high dopamine scrolling.
Okay, so this progressive buildup across all three pillars, the subtractive wellness, the subscription finance, the intentional attention that seems like the secret sauce for actually making it through the whole 90 days.
Yeah.
But we all know how this goes. Week 1 is exciting. Month 2, that's where the wheels can fall off. The motivation fades. We need the systems designed to stop people from quitting.
Okay.
Right, let's hit that crisis point head on. Month 2, sometimes called the trough of disillusionment, right?
Exactly. That initial spark, that New Year's resolution energy, it's pretty much gone. Maybe the weather's gloomy, life gets in the way. And the new habits, they aren't quite automatic yet. They still require conscious effort.
This is crunch time.
It really is. And this is where the lock-in mandates a crucial shift in thinking. You have to move beyond focusing just on behavioral goals like, I saved $50 this week.
Okay, to what?
To establishing deep identity goals.
Identity goals. Explain that.
Okay, so behavioral goals are fragile. They depend on outcomes, which can fluctuate. Identity goals, they're way more robust because they're tied to who you believe you are. So instead of saying, I should exercise 3 times this week, that's behavioral you internalize, I am someone who prioritizes my physical and mental energy. See the difference?
Yeah, it's a shift from doing to being.
Exactly. And if you identify as that kind of person, when you don't do the habit, it creates this internal friction, this cognitive dissonance. It feels like you're violating your own self-concept, not just breaking a rule.
That feels like a much stronger motivator than just guilt or checking a box.
Way stronger. It's an internal forcing mechanism. So, okay, let's talk systems upgrade. We know people will slip up. Perfectionism creeps in. What's the key troubleshooting technique when inevitably someone fails to meet their goal for a day? The absolute biggest killer of long-term progress isn't the slip-up itself, it's the guilt cycle that follows.
Right. Mess up, feel bad, assume you can't do it, quit.
That's the pattern. So the lock-in actively uses self-compassion as a tool, almost like a weapon against that cycle. And here's a key shift. You stop obsessing over tracking streaks, how many days in a row you were perfect.
Okay. What do you track instead?
You start tracking comeback speed.
Comeback speed.
Yeah. The measure of success isn't hitting 100% perfection. It's how quickly you recognize you've lapsed. Acknowledge it without beating yourself up, and intentionally get right back on track with the next opportunity.
I like that. Focus on the recovery, not the error. And is there a specific mechanism to make sure that comeback happens fast? You mentioned a hidden bonus earlier.
Ah, yes. The cornerstone of building resilience, or what some call anti-fragility, the idea of getting stronger after a disruption. It's the 2-day rule.
The 2-day rule. Okay, sounds simple.
It's brilliantly simple, but incredibly powerful. The rule is, never allow yourself to miss a planned habit 2 days in a row.
Never 2 days in a row.
Missing one day. That's life. It happens. An emergency comes up, you get sick, travel disrupts things. It's a mistake, an outlier. But missing 2 days in a row, that's the beginning of a new pattern. It's a small tear in the fabric of that identity we talked about, and those small tears can unravel really fast into total abandonment.
So by forcing yourself to get back on track on day 2, no matter what, you reinforce that identity. I am the kind of person who shows up, even when it's hard.
Exactly. I am consistent even when life gets chaotic. It short-circuits the slide.
That's a great practical tool.
Yeah.
How else do we make these new habits stick, especially the small ones, without relying purely on motivation? We should talk about habit stacking.
Oh yeah, habit stacking is fantastic because it basically makes the new habit piggyback on something you already do automatically. It eliminates the need for a separate reminder or decision point.
How does it work?
The structure is simple. After current habit, I will new habit. You anchor the new thing you want to do to an existing routine that's already solid.
Can you give an example, like
Yeah.
for wellness?
Sure. For the wellness pillar, maybe. After I pour my morning coffee, current habit, I will do 15 bodyweight squats, new habit. Or for finance. After I log into my banking app to check my balance, current habit, I will immediately transfer $5 to my high-yield savings account, new habit.
Okay. You're using the momentum of the old habit to launch you into the new one, making it almost invisible.
Exactly. Less friction, less reliance on memory or willpower.
Okay, we need to tackle the underlying neurology here too. This cycle where stress leads to unhealthy coping mechanisms. The sources said, 60% of Gen Z turn to unhealthy food or drink when stressed?
Yeah, and that same stress response often drives impulsive emotional spending, too. It's all interconnected. So the systems need a way to interrupt that immediate reactive impulse.
How do you break that cycle in the moment?
That's where a technique like the STOP technique comes in. It's basically a tactical mindfulness exercise. When that wave of anxiety or stress hits, your brain is screaming for dopamine, for comfort now.
Yeah.
STOP creates a brief pause, a cognitive gap, between the trigger, the stress, and the usual emotional reaction, the spending or the comfort eating.
STOP. Okay. What does it stand for? Walk me through it.
Right. So imagine you just got off a really stressful work call. Your immediate gut reaction is maybe to grab your phone and order a pizza or start browsing Amazon for something, anything to feel better. Instead, you engage. STOP. Stop. Literally just pause whatever you're doing, put the phone down, freeze for a second.
Okay. SE is stop.
Take deep breaths, like 3 slow, intentional breaths.
No.
This helps activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which chemically starts to counteract the stress response. It calms you physiologically.
T is take breaths. Got it.
Observe. Observe your current state, but without judging it. Just acknowledge it. Okay, I'm feeling really stressed right now. I feel anxious. My brain wants a quick fix. Naming it takes away some of its power.
Always observe?
Proceed. Now, choose how to proceed with intention rather than just reacting on impulse. This is where you consciously choose a healthier coping strategy instead of the default one.
And that P, that choice.
Yeah.
That's the crucial moment. The replacement strategy has to be something accessible and ideally free and supportive, right?
Absolutely. You swap out the unhealthy urge with a high-quality alternative. Maybe it's that 15-minute walk we talked about. Maybe it's putting on some music and dancing for 5 minutes. Maybe it's calling a supportive friend. For the financial impulses, the lock-in adds another layer of friction here.
What's that?
Calculate the cost of the impulse purchase in work hours.
Ooh, okay. How does that work?
So if that thing you suddenly need costs, say, $150, and you figure out your actual take-home pay per hour is $25, that purchase isn't $150 anymore. It's 6 hours of your work life.
Wow. That definitely reframes it. 6 hours of work for those shoes.
Exactly. It introduces this really powerful financial friction. It makes you pause and ask, is it really worth that much of my time and energy? Often the answer is no. It supports that intentional spending mindset.
Now, the lock-in also seems to redefine wealth a bit, doesn't it? Especially for this generation living P2P. It's not just about a fat 401k someday.
No, it has to be more immediate, more foundational. Wealth, in this context, definitely includes financial security, like having that emergency fund. It includes getting out of high-interest debt. But critically, it also includes skill development.
Investing in yourself.
Yeah, because your ability to earn is your single greatest financial asset, always. The lock-in really emphasizes that investing time and maybe a little money in high ROI skills, things like digital marketing, data analysis, maybe content creation, coding, whatever aligns with your interests and the market that's an investment, that can compound your earning potential way faster than just letting a few $100 sit in a savings account.
Right. Building assets that generate future income. So let's say someone follows the lock-in principles. Maybe they use that digital focus time to learn a new skill, and they actually start bringing in some extra cash from a side hustle. How should they handle that money, especially if they're still basically paycheck to paycheck? They can't just blow it.
Good question. This calls for the side hustle allocation strategy. It's designed for growth even when you're starting small. You use a layered approach to hit multiple goals at once.
Okay, layered approach. How does that break down?
So let's say you bring in an extra $200 this month. First, maybe 50% of that goes directly to easing the pressure on your main budget, creating some breathing room in that tight needs category. That reduces immediate stress.
Okay, half for immediate relief. Makes sense.
Then maybe 25% goes straight into building or padding that emergency fund. That's your first layer of real security.
Got it. Emergency fund.
Then maybe 15% is targeted directly at paying down your highest interest debt, like a credit card. Getting rid of that is a guaranteed return.
Right, debt elimination.
And the final 10%, this is crucial. That 10% gets reinvested directly back into skill development. Maybe it pays for an online course, a certification exam, software you need. Something that directly boosts your ability to earn more from that side hustle or get a raise in your main job.
So you're immediately treating that extra income not just as spending money, but as capital to reinvest in yourself, your primary earning engine.
Exactly. It creates this positive feedback loop of growth.
So the final stretch, weeks 9 through 12, the integration phase. This is about making it stick long term, right? Not just snapping back to old habits on day 91.
Precisely. This is where you prepare for life after the intense focus of the challenge. The goal shifts from just following the rules to really internalizing the habits, making them part of your default settings, part of your identity.
Hmm.
You're focusing on consistency. Aiming for that solid 80% adherence over the final 30 days feels more important than perfection. And you're consciously building that anti-fragility we talked about, practicing how you'll handle setbacks after the challenge ends. Knowing that when life inevitably throws you a curveball, a big unexpected bill, a super stressful week at work, you have practice systems to fall back on. You know to use the 2-day rule, you know to use STOP, you know your savings transfers are automated. The system catches you. Recap. Okay, so let's just quickly recap the core blueprint we've unpacked here for the Great Lock-in. First, the whole movement. It's fundamentally a response to economic anxiety. It's Gen Z saying, okay, the big stuff feels out of control, so I'm taking radical control of my own world through intentional self-discipline.
Right. Control the controllables.
Exactly. Second, real sustainable progress comes from balancing those 3 key pillars. Getting smart and cost-effective with wellness, automating your financial discipline using that subscription mindset, and reclassing your focus through intentional digital minimalism.
Wellness, finance, digital.
Got it. And third, the thing that makes it last, the thing that gets you through month 2 and beyond. It's not about finding more motivation, it's about building robust systems. Things like the 2-day rule so you bounce back fast, the STOP technique to handle stress without derailing, and that critical shift towards focusing on your identity, not just your behavior.
And remember that stat, 90% of people who do this report feeling empowered. This isn't just about individual willpower. It's about joining this really resourceful movement of young adults who are systematically building resilience against uncertainty. So maybe just to start small this week, right?
Absolutely. Don't try to boil the ocean.
Yeah. Pick one tiny micro habit from each pillar. Maybe commit to just a 15-minute walk purely for stress relief. Maybe set up just one small automatic transfer to savings, even if it's just $5. And maybe try 1 hour phone-free first thing in the morning. Just start.
Start small, but start now. Honestly, the biggest win from the lock-in isn't just the weight loss or the money saved, though those are great. It's the confidence you build. It's developing these proven systems that show you, unequivocally, that you can handle uncertainty, that you can manage yourself effectively. That sense of self-sovereignty you build over 90 days, that's an asset that will serve you for decades.
Every insight gets deeper on the second listen, so make sure you save this deep dive in your library. Now, next time, we're actually building directly on this foundation. We're diving into some pretty advanced wealth optimization strategies.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, we're going to unpack the 3 kind of counterintuitive financial moves the oldest segment of Gen Z are using right now to actually leverage the same economic instability that's driving the lock-in. And we'll look at how they're using really strategic, high-leverage skill investments as a hedge against market volatility. If you want to know how to play the long game when the economy feels shaky, you definitely won't want to miss it.